Hello, welcome to the second lesson for the Machine Learning Master Class. This will be a series of videos in which we build our first machine learning models to get a feel for what's coming. So what I want you to do is actually find your last notebook that you created for the first class. If you missed it for any reason, I have the starter link below. But if you go to colab.research.google.com, you should see this screen. And it's likely that you'll actually see your notebook up here. Now for me, I have to scroll down a little bit if I want to find it. I think this is it, cleaning bike rentals data. This looks good. And if I double click there, it should open. And this looks like an updated version of that. Okay, so what you can do from here, what you want to do, anytime you're continuing a notebook, this code has not been run. You can verify that by looking here and seeing that there's no number there. So I want to go ahead and do runtime run all. And when I do that, I usually just scroll down to the bottom. We're cleaning null values, right? We looked at a lot of different approaches. And even though these are hidden, right? This is that advantage of showing and using kind of the headers to show text. They still run, right? So I'm scrolling down all the way, but note that I can also use the header to get to the end. And so this one has its own subheaders, it looks like. So it's kind of a cool way to navigate. Okay, and I don't really need to look at them all. What I need to do is get some new material in here. Okay, after you load the data, you want to check it out. So what I'm going to do is, let's do this together. Start with a new text header. And maybe call it, sometimes it's fun to be honest. We're going to revisit the data. And now I've got it saved as df. So what I'm going to do next is run a coding cell and just run df.head. Let's see, we know we cleared the null values. I want to take a look at the data. I'll let you know why in a moment. So we have all these columns and there are no null values. So let me add in a text cell here for emphasis, okay? To run machine learning models, or I should say to build machine learning models, all columns should be non-null, we did that, and numerical. Okay, we haven't checked this yet. So this won't take too long to check, but it's also part of the cleaning process, which is why it belongs here. Looks like I could delete this cell or move it, doesn't matter. So how can I get all the types? Well, if I run a new coding cell, do this with me, just type in df.info again. And what you see is all the D types. So instant floats, great. Date times 64, no good. Why? Because most machine learning algorithms take numbers as input. These are mathematical models, so it doesn't take dates as an input. It doesn't know what to do with them. Everything else is actually fine. So when you have a date column and you are going to build a machine learning model, you have two options. Number one, you get rid of it, or number two, you extract it into other columns. But this has already been extracted actually. See, the date gives us it looks like you can see what the date gives you here. It's a year, a month, and a day. And it gives us the year, the month, whether it's a weekday or working day. I think that's sufficient here. You could change to the day, but really you want the weekday workday because does it matter that it's the 23rd day of the month? It's probably more important if it's a weekday or not. Holidays, so we can just get rid of that column, okay? My favorite way to delete columns, I'll put in a header here, delete date column, is simply the del. I really like this because I remember it, delete, and then I put the name of the column, df brackets quote, What's it called? To start with date. Yes, there's only one option there. DTEDAY. Coleb is highlighting it for me. I press enter. You can see there's a little error here because it or I added an extra string. So you can see that because this is red and it should be black. So I can get rid of it there, and then I always just like to look at it again just to verify. Did it actually get rid of it? It's gone. Now, this is close to clean. The reality is there's kind of one final step before building a machine learning model, and it's deciding whether the columns you have in front of you are in fact the ones that you want. So what do I mean by that? I mean, are they going to contribute some value? And there's a big question of whether instant could or could not contribute value. So here I'm going to give you two different ideas. Number one, you could say, yes, it does, because this is over time and the company could be gaining popularity in time. On the other hand, it's a forced kind of like numerical input that's not actually used with the weather, right? Like if we're going to strictly use weather to determine how many bike rentals there are, and let's say along with weather and date, I guess, then we're not actually looking at that as a factor. Now, my book, Hands-on Gradient Boosting with XGBoost and Scikit-learn, which you all can check out as a supplementary text for this. You can even check out the GitHub pages, which we'll look at some point in this lesson. I actually left this in, but I want to take it out this time. It's fun to see the difference, and I see the value of it. And one other piece on that. Sometimes we see, there it is. I did it again. We actually can do both, and we pick, well, where does it give the best score, and we do that. That's not always the right approach. Just because the score is better doesn't mean, and when I say that, I mean the machine learning model, like the prediction. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's the right way to go, because it depends on like what you're actually looking for, and accuracy sometimes maybe the model scores slightly less, but it's actually more accurate and representative of reality. So, by default, yes, we go with the best score. And I encourage you to play with taking columns in and out, right? You can run this notebook, and then top to bottom, you could always comment this out, and then it won't get rid of it. And you could see the difference. Okay. So I'm going to you'll see why, okay? I'm doing this in a little bit. I want to do one more thing. And this is just we're going to run a preliminary machine learning model. The reason why this is in the cleaning bike rentals data set and why it can be worth it is because you can always run a preliminary model to see if there's anything awry, right? You may run it and it simply doesn't work, okay? So it's totally legitimate. I mean, you could have it in here anyways. Of course, you're going to run a preliminary model at some point. So I'm going to quickly go over the code to do that, but I do want to pause first and just be clear. The reason why we're able to build the machine learning model is that all data is non-null, meaning no null values, covered from the last lesson, our first one. And very quickly in this one, we cleared up the dates column, which was non-numeric, and we even got rid of an additional column. I do think that's potentially worth its own subheader, which it's always a good idea, delete any extraneous columns. And by the way, on that note, these days machine learning algorithms are really strong in terms of what they can handle, like in terms of a lot of columns of input. But it could be too that you just get rid of other columns because they're not contributing to the goal at hand or things like this. Like if we were doing a strict weather one, we could actually get rid of the date info. But I definitely want to leave it in. Okay.